Welcome. This is going to be a lot of fun. I am Martha Mooke. You are seeing us on the multi-style NJCU multi-style strings page on Facebook. Maybe in other places too. I'm not quite sure. We get around. So today is the first time we're doing something like this, and I'm really excited to be chatting with one of my heroes and someone that I've known for a long time and respected, and he has so much to share with everybody. So we're going to be bringing Tracy to NJCU for our symposium later in August. But I want you to get a sense of what he has to share, because he does so many workshops and presentations and his playing. And before I blab all over the place, I'm going to bring Tracy in and let him give you an introduction.
Hey, it's Tracy Silverman. After graduating from the Juilliard School, I took a 40-year journey into rock and roll and jazz in search of an authentic way to play the music that I love. After many years of teaching, I developed the Strum Bowing method, how to groove on strings, a foolproof way to get string players off the page and into the groove so they can thrive in any musical setting.
Hey, Tracy.
And the big question remains, of course, what is the future of strings? Come on, let's talk about it.
Oops, you are muted. There we go.
Okay, all right. So we do. Yeah, I remember when we did this on your podcast, and it was hysterical.
It's always an adventure.
Yeah. So why don't we just start a little? You're so passionate about this, and your mission statement is about the evolution of string playing,
Yes.
and I think that that resonates with all of us in the string world. Evolution doesn't mean the exclusion of anything else. It means the inclusion. And I'd love to hear you elaborate on that.
Exactly, because you can't deny your genetic history, right? That's the whole idea of evolution. You are carrying 400 or 500 years of string history with us. We are the caretakers. In fact, it is and I'm quite serious about this. You say I'm passionate. It's more of an obsession, but it is our actual responsibility. It's our duty as musicians, in actual fact, to preserve what we have and build upon it. It's our job as musicians, is what musicians have always done, is to stand on the shoulders of those before us. And to borrow and steal as much as we possibly can from as many great sources in our living and past musical, the musical history that we're lucky enough to have. So, yes, it is about, I like to, I talk a lot about the future of strings, and I think it's very important at this juncture to be a little bit almost, well, I'm going to say advocate for ourselves. Not, we're not being militant about it, but we need to advocate for our freedom as string players, because, and for this, when I say our freedom, the freedom to play what we want to play, and to play in a way that we may feel is more relevant musically than just classical playing. So as wonderful as that history is, and as much as I love that, and that was my first love as a little tot, I fell in love with the sound of the Sibelius Violin Concerto and Scheherazade and stuff like that. I just totally fell for that hook, line, and sinker, and loved everything about it. So, and Bach and Mozart, but it is our duty, it is our responsibility as string players to do what string players have always done, which is to reflect their own time and place, right? That's what Bach was doing. That's what Mozart was doing in his string writing and his string quartets. It's what Tchaikovsky was doing in his violin concerto. and it shouldn't end somewhere in the early 20th century or mid 20th century, where everything is now basically sounding like 18th century or classical playing technique. We're in a world that is full of hip hop and jazz, Latin music, country, our musical environment is so much richer than ever before. And there's no way that anyone can stop string players from being affected by that and carrying that with them. And so, I think that's, it's just a matter of making it easy for people and giving them good instruction, like what happens in New Jersey, and encouragement. You're not wrong. You're not crazy for thinking that you can play hip hop. You can. You really can. We can do all kinds of stuff on strings that, people don't teach you at conservatories. Simple as that.
But you can still play in an orchestra or play serious music and play other style,
yes.
hip hop or jazz or fiddle.
Yes, I think it's important to state that multi-styles, playing in other styles of music, is very similar to learning other languages, or learning how to cook other cuisines. It takes years to really understand it, to be fluent in whatever that genre may be. And it may be a micro genre of charanga, whatever, or it could be whatever piece of specific type of bluegrass playing, Texas content. There's all kinds of little subgenres, and they take years to absorb, just like being fluent in another language. But the point is that you don't forget your mother tongue when you learn a second or third language. You don't forget your culture, the food that you grew up with. That's what you carry. That's part of your DNA. And we have that. If you're from a classical background, you're not going to forget how to play classical music because you learned jazz harmony. That's a really bad excuse for not working on your jazz harmony. Sorry, it's not gonna hold water with me. It's not gonna hurt your playing. It's going to help your playing, especially, I do a lot of work about groove. That's kind of, been something that I've been focusing on, and it became a focus simply because it's, I think, the entry point to all non-classical styles. And in fact, it's an entry point to classical music as well, because classical music has groove all over the place, and heavy groove and super pronounced grooves, just like we have in our popular music. I mean, not just like different style, but just as strong. There's no way that you can tell me, for instance, that there's not a groove in this. Right? If that doesn't have a groove to it, I don't know what does. That's the definition of a groove right there. Oops, I got to turn this musician sound. I did that before and then forgot to do it. Let me do that again. Right? I mean, if that grooves like a mother. So there's groove all over the place, and learning how to be better with that, how to internalize it, how to lock into it, it can only help your classical playing. I'm going to give you a case in point, and this is something that I've found myself telling students more and more these days. I've realized that this is the simple one-stop fix that cures all rhythm ills. And so I'm constantly reminding my students to move, to internalize this rhythm just physically. And it doesn't have to be any kind of big flamboyant choreography. Just, it can be very subtle. Just feel that groove, a little bounce in your knees, a little, side to side of your weight. Like a little shift like that is all it takes to internalize that rhythm. And you'll notice I did that when I'm playing Bach. And that's why you're feeling this groove. If I were standing like they taught me at Juilliard, now it still has a groove because, I mean, I'm feeling it with a groove, but I've heard people play it in such a way that it doesn't quite groove as much, and it's more about tone. I'm exaggerating for the sake of comedy, but I think you get my point.
Well, I mean, so I think choreographers understood that first, maybe before classical musicians. Even,
Yeah.
classical ballet, there's plenty of amazing ballets choreographed to that music. And
Yeah.
they're not just
Yeah.
up in, there's movement, there's emotion, there's a
Yeah.
lot more.
Right. And this is a perfect opportunity to point out something that I'm also constantly reminding students, because I have this thing that I teach called Strum Bowing, which some of your listeners may be familiar with, but it's sort of my method of teaching string players how to groove. And it's based on this idea of keeping a steady strum motion kind of motor running all the time in your hand. And the idea of it is that if this is going, then you're going to stay locked in with the groove. It's a way of internalizing, physically internalizing that beat, that pulse. However, sometimes people think, well, oh, I saw you playing this thing and you weren't using strum bowing. I'm like, well, that's because I was playing something melodic. If I'm playing a melodic phrase or I'm playing a tune ahead of a jazz tune or whatever, it's not the same as rhythm playing. So this distinction between like a rhythm guitar and a lead guitar is something that we need as string players to start thinking about and being more aware of at times when we can be functioning as a rhythm instrument and really providing rhythm for a tune, a singer, a dancer, whatever. Something that fiddlers, by the way, have been doing for centuries. When we're doing that, our function is largely rhythmic. What notes we play, it's kind of icing on the cake. When we're playing a melody, we're playing, whoops, we're doing something very different. What we're doing there is closer to acting. We have a phrase that we're imparting to the audience. We're focused on the lyric in a sense. We're focused on the words, on the text, as actors would say. Focusing on the lyric, as singers would say. We're focusing on the phrase, on the melody, as string players, as instrumentalists. That's as it should be. When we're doing that role, that's our job, is to express this idea. But usually that's happening against a context, a rhythmic context of some kind. Even in classical music, it's almost never happens that there is not some sort of pulse context happening, even in the slowest of music. So you're either doing the melody or you're playing the rhythmic. If you're a violist, you're very well aware of, right? Stuff like that. You're the rhythm player. Your job is to provide a pulse.
And that's not even a viola joke.
No, fortunately it's very true. Second violins as well. And cellos. So this whole, making string players aware of this is really focused on those string players. I mean, the violin players who exist in a world of melody almost exclusively and virtuosity and all of that kind of stuff. And that's wonderful. This is not in any way taking anything away from that. This is simply a second function that we can adopt. And especially when we do this in non-classical styles, we're doing this in hip hop or in jazz or whatever, we're bringing a different sensibility to it. But essentially, whether it's in a Mozart quartet or whatever it is, your job, you might be going, but you might be going, right? And just because all of those notes look exactly the same on a page through the miracle of notation software and great engravers back in the old days, this doesn't have to sound like this, where it's like a computer stamped it out, right? That is not the way human beings feel rhythm. I was just speaking with a student about this morning. The whole idea of grooving should feel good. It should feel good because our bodies are more comfortable grooving than not grooving. It's harder if you're listening to James Brown, right? Whatever. If you're listening to a groove like that, if you're standing still, you're either dead or, deaf, I think. Because as much our bodies are much happier to stand still while that's happening, you have to exert a certain isometric kind of, right? It's like it's harder. It's more exercise to stand still. It's way easier to just do this. This is what our bodies want to do. Our bodies are set up with oppositional physics. Everything in our body is in stereo, right? When our arms work, one muscle is contracting, the other is expanding. That's contracting, this is expanding. Everything works this way. Our legs, when we walk, we are shifting our weight. Our body, everything about our body is intended to go back and forth and not to be locked still. This is hard on our bodies. It's hard for us to sit. It's easier for us to stand.
Yeah.
And
So if you were, if there was somebody that had never played any other style than classical, they're used to playing what's on the printed page and used to following the conductor and don't vary on that. How would you say that was their first lesson? How would you get them? What would be the first thing that you would show them or get them to play? Like, do they go from Bach to groove Bach? What's your sauce?
Well, it has to do, the first thing I do is try to determine what the student's preference is in music, what they like to listen to. It's one of the first questions I always ask. Well, what do you like to listen to? What do you, what's your jam? And work with, and start there. So we start with something that there's a natural affinity for. To try to get somebody who's not really interested in jazz and learning jazz is an uphill battle. Why do that? If they really want to just learn fiddling, or if they want to learn hip hop, or if they really want to learn classical, that's where you go. So, but then the second thing for rhythm is what I was mentioning before. It's kind of this one-stop fix, cure all, and that is move. Just let your body respond to the music. Don't feel like this is not expressive dancing, modern dance where you have to create a choreography for the music. No, it's nothing to do with that. This is simply listen to the music and allow your body to just feel the pulse and respond to the pulse. And that's, if a student is really having trouble with that, that's problematic. So we work on, and there are students who have a hard time with that, especially in a lesson situation when somebody's asking you to, relax. It's like, I can't relax. I'm really nervous. I get that. So I often will tell students, look, work on this at home, but close the door. Like they say, dance where no one can see you, right? Sometimes we need a little privacy to get anything done like that may be risky or, potentially embarrassing. So, but I'm going to tell you just very quickly, I made a discovery that I made that is kind of ground shaking for me, especially for what I do, the type of teaching that I do. And that is, I had a bad back injury several years ago. And I was
kind of out of commission, couldn't walk for a couple months. When I finally started getting back on my feet, I was trying to work, and I had a standing desk that because it was so painful to sit, I couldn't sit, and it hurt to stand. But little by little, I was able to stand at this desk, and I'm working. I could work for 10, 15 minutes at a time, and then I'd have to go like lay down or try to do something. Little by little, I started working. I was editing something in Pro Tools, and I'm editing this tune, and it's got a groove, and I'm working on it, and I'm not even paying attention. And about an hour later, I'm going, holy cow, my back feels better than when I started. How is that possible? And I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing? Is my leg, well, because I was made very aware of any of this stuff. And I realized that I was almost imperceptibly moving. Just, that was all I could manage at that point, because I had disc issues. And I was just bopping to the thing, and I felt better. The next day I did the same thing, and I felt better. And I was like, this is crazy. This is the best physical therapy I could possibly do. Gentle, natural, just letting my body do what it wants to do, but not letting it be frozen, not letting it be rigid. So, long way to make the point that our bodies want to groove. They want to do, just let your body do what it wants to do. So that's a personal thing that students have to get in touch with. If you want to play rhythm, you are going to have to face down that issue if that's an issue. Most people, it's not. Most people are fine with that. They may be a little stiff in a lesson, but they can dig it fine on their own. So that's the first thing. So we get the body going, and usually that's a matter of just bending your knees, right? Bend your knees and just bop to the beat. Simple as can be. It feels good. So, and everything about grooving should feel good. If it stops feeling good, something is not jibing. It's not, because it should be very easy and natural. And so we take that pathway. That's the path that I take with the student. The kind of music they like, with their body being having as good a time with it as possible. And then we work from there, so I use this basic format that I've kind of codified in my Strum Bowing method that I call GPS for strings. And what this is a groove proficiency system, but what it really is, it's a way to navigate your way to any groove. Because a lot of times string players are like, well, what's the bowing for this? I'm trying to do it, and I can't figure out how to do it. And usually, nine times out of 10, the problem is that people are trying to do as it comes bowing instead of keeping a consistent thing. So you might be doing, like, even if you're chopping, you might be doing something like you want the chop to go ga 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 ga. So I see this kind of thing, when really, if this is consistent, it's going to end up being some down bows and some up bows. If you break it down to that. So when I'm working with a new student who may be having difficulty with feeling the rhythm, I will first introduce them to this GPS for strings idea. And that's a way to internalize the rhythm in such a way that they almost can't not groove, to be doubly negative about it. They're guaranteed, and the positive to that is they're assured grooving. They're guaranteed to groove. That's why I call it GPS for string, because it's the way you can navigate to the groove. It's the way to find your groove. And what that
Is that
consists
a money back guarantee that you
it
will
is.
groove it?
Absolutely. And what it consists of is hum it, strum it, say it, play it. Hum it, strum it, say it, play it. And what that does is it involves humming, it involves your voice, because when we say things out loud, we learn them faster, whether that's Spanish vocab or a fiddle tune that you're humming, anything that you vocalize in some way, your brain is designed to, it's just a different cognitive process than when you do it in your head. And by the way, when I say out loud, that means in a voice that other people can hear. So
So the first thing we do is we express the groove vocally, and because our voice is in between our brain and our arms, right? It happens to be right in between. Coincidence? I think not. So anyway, so the first thing we do is we hum it. So let's say you have a groove like ba ga da ga 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 da da ga 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 da, go on the highway looking for adventure, right? Born to be wild. So if we have a groove like that, so the first thing we do is just speak it, vocalize it, hum it. The second one is strum it, and that means just physicalize it. So we're going to get it in our body. And when I say strum it, I don't just mean move your wrist. I mean move your body. Internalize that groove in your knees, in your ankles, humming it and strumming it together. For most string players, this is already difficult because they're accustomed to ba da 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 as it comes. So to have your voice do one thing and your hand do something else is something we never do. Okay? So that's why I break it down to let's not even pick up our bow yet. We don't even have our fiddles up. Yeah, I'm holding this thing, but so we're doing ba ba da 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 da, just standing here, stepping back and forth, and we're internalizing this vocally and physically. We've gotten it to a point where it would be hard to get it wrong at this point, but it's possible. It's possible, especially if you've been a classical player for a long time. Those habits of as it comes, they stick with you. You know, you start going like ba 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 ba. You know, you get like halfway through it, and then anyway. So for that reason, the third step of the GPS is say it, and what that means is different from hum it. Hum it is just vocalize it, da da da, and I say hum. You don't have to hum. It just happens to rhyme with strum. But if you're going to say it, what say it means is say the bow direction. It's the bow direction lyric to the song. So, and what that means is that if you're keeping a steady grid of down, up, down, up, down, up, and that never changes, that's a motor that's going on from the beginning of time till long after we're here, okay? This is a subdivision of a pulse, okay? That's a natural force of the universe. Ba ba da ba 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 da. So I'm hum it, strum it, ba ba. Say it is down, up, down, up, 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 down. I slow it down because I know on the video it gets unsynchronized a little bit, so it gets really weird when I'm doing the opposite.
So that's kind of like what guitar players do, the strum thing.
Yeah, it's exactly what guitar players do. As a matter of fact. Zero original and nothing original about it.
So how do you do it from how do you get it from going on this direction? Because probably a lot of people have tried this to doing this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're air guitaring at first, then pick up your bow, air bow it, but say the bow direction as your lyric. This will help you once you put it on the string, because what ends up happening is we're fine like this. I'm playing air guitar, I'm playing air violin. As soon as I put my bow on the string, I'm like, I go back to Mr. Classical Man, right? And that's because those habits, it's like, I'm fine. Now I'm classical, right? Just like bow hits a string. I've been taught for the last 20 years of how to do this, and there's no way you can break those habits. So I get that. So that's why I have this extra step of saying it so that you understand that the bow direction is not down, up, down, up, down, up, down. It's down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. It's accents within a constant grid. So that's a departure for most string players. So that's the kind of the hard work that I do with especially classical players, but because fiddle players tend to have that a little bit more naturally. They're used to keeping time more. But for classical players who are accustomed to being the melodic player, and there's lots of things. It's not just the fact that there's all these habits and they're not used to, they've never done that before. There's a certain mental, a kind of almost a social convention, a tradition of string playing that emphasizes tone, virtuosity, beauty, expressiveness as being what we shoot for. Rock solid pulse is usually not on that list anywhere,
Right.
right?
And I'm gonna pause for 1 second because
Yeah.
you just said the magic word, rock solid pulse.
Okay.
Because I have somebody knocking at the door here that
Yes, you made some.
can talk to a rock solid pulse, and I'm
All
gonna
right,
let
who
him
you got?
in.
You made some
And I'm gonna
sort of
let him in
hints
because we're
about.
gonna turn the groove tables on you, Mr.
Nice.
Tracy Silverman.
All right, who we got? We got a drummer of some kind. Ah, Mr. Joe Deninzon. Brother!
Tracy Silverman,
Get your groove on.
do you know what time it is? Do you know
Dude,
what time it is?
how are you, brother? Are
I'm
you
doing
home?
all right.
That looks like your home studio.
Yeah, it is my humble little man cave, musical man cave here.
Nice, man.
How have you been?
I'm good. I'm so thrilled that you've taken a moment away from your tour bus and backstage um, rider. You know, your
The green
champagne and
M&Ms, you know.
the Four
There's the
Seasons
green M&M.
Hotel.
Well,
Exactly.
we don't have a tour bus. We do flyouts. There's no tour bus. It's great.
Get your own plane, probably. Yeah.
I can't ask for a better situation.
Nice,
So
man.
anyway, I had a specific reason I wanted to call in.
Yes.
And the reason
Uh-oh.
is that it's time to play Not My Gig.
Oh my
Now,
God.
So we'll
yeah,
just
I'm going to let Martha, set this up.
we'll give a little
Awesome.
background to turning the tables, the groove
Nice.
tables.
We are
So
turning
Oh,
the
I love
tables
it.
Tracy
I
indeed.
love it.
Tracy has this amazing podcast called. Give us a
For
little
the, yes. So
backdrop here.
I have both of these wonderful musicians that you see on your screen have been guests, honored guests on my podcast, which is called For the Greater Groove: The Future of Strings. And I have folks like this come on and talk about how they do the magic that they do. And in fact, we have video evidence of collaborations that we have done that back this up that maybe we can share with our Facebook friends. And at the as the last closing segment of the podcast, which most of my guests just dread, I have a little game that I call Not My Gig, which is based on, I don't know if we have many NPR listeners out there. I'm guessing we may have a few who listen to Wait, Don't Tell Me on the weekends. And great show out of WBEZ in Chicago. And they have, so this is a complete ripoff of their show, just so in case anybody's thinking of copyright suit, I'm not even gonna try. It's a complete ripoff. Their show is called Not My Job. This is Not My Gig. I ask my guests about subjects that I'm pretty sure they won't know anything about.
So yeah, and so he's stumped so many guests, stumped and totally humiliated so many guests. So we thought it would be time. It would be good to, because as you know, Tracy we call him the king of rhythm, the king of groove, and the master of strum bowing. But Tracy, what might you happen to know about Mount Stromboli off the coast of Sicily?
Is there really a Mount Stromboli?
Mount Stromboli.
That's where I didn't know. That's where the food gets its name, I guess, huh?
Or the other way around. Who knows? Maybe it's shaped because maybe it's shaped like a Stromboli. But anyway, so yeah, a friend hit me to this. I didn't even realize there was a Mount Stromboli. So are you ready for your first
I'm
one?
ready, man. Hit me. Hit me.
All right. So Mount Stromboli is located in what sea? A, the Tyrrhenian Sea. B, the Ionian Sea. Or C, the Mixolydian Sea.
Well, I'm pretty sure the Mixolydian Sea doesn't actually exist. And I'm going to say, just because it's a sea, I'm going to go with Ionian. I don't know.
You are actually incorrect, although there is an Ionian Sea pretty adjacent to the Tyrrhenian Sea, where
Tyrrhenian
it's
Sea.
located. Yes, there's all these little seas
All
around
right,
it.
got me. Got me.
All right. That's strike one. Okay, Mount Stromboli stands how high above sea level? A, 2,056 feet. B, 4,073 feet. Or C, 3,038 feet.
I'm going with 4,000.
You are incorrect. It is C, 3,038 feet. Okay, but you have a good chance to redeem yourself. The third one.
Can we do all or
I'm
nothing?
loving.
Can
I'm
we do
loving this.
all or nothing on this one?
All or nothing, absolutely.
I got nothing.
You got this. You got this. Okay. So Mount Stromboli has been in continuous eruption for the past 5,000 years.
Wow.
Its last eruption was in A, 1955, B, 1921, or C, 2014.
Well, it was in the middle of a Van Halen concert for the eruption. So I'm going to say.
We're still touring in 2014.
Yeah, I think they were. But I didn't hear about it. I don't remember hearing about that. What was the middle one? 90 something, 80 something?
I'll give you all three. So A is 1955, B is 1921, and C is 2014.
I'm going with A.
Real? Okay, well, dude, you are incorrect. You're wrong because
You
the
got
answer.
some good vengeance on this one, brother.
I didn't expect you to do this badly, honestly. No,
But on wait, they make sure that the guest at least gets one right.
I was
Exactly.
the truth is there are two correct answers here, B and C. I was hoping you would get one of them because the real big eruption was in 1921, and the effusive eruption is like a mini eruption was in 2014. So
And it was probably in the middle of a Van Halen concert.
That's very possible. It was erupting throughout, like Van Halen's career, actually. So
Now, I know with Martha, I asked you about Scorched Earth, a
Yes, you
video
did.
game.
And
Because you
I
have the
think I got
Scorcho
one right
Quartet.
out of all.
You
yeah.
might have gotten. You might have. Joe, what would I ask? Did I ask you
you
about?
asked me about the stratosphere,
Ah, yes.
and I think I got 2 out of 3. I can't remember. I got to go listen. But yeah,
Well, hey, serves me right. Serves me right. So
what can I tell you? But this has been very fun.
happy to be a fool. I've never tried to hide it before. So,
We're all fools here.
Thanks, Joe. Oh wait,
well-
look, we have another somebody knocking at the door. Ooh, should we let him in?
Can I hear him knocking?
All right,
smell trouble.
let's see what happens.
Knock, knock, knocking on.
Who is it? Who is it?
door.
Who?
Ah! The master of electric disasters. Brother!
Mr. Matt Bell.
All right, we got the gang all here.
how's it going?
Violin Shop.
Backdrop you got there.
Yeah, man. He keeps that at home. He
Mayhem.
just keeps that. It's actually a green screen. He's got that on it,
That's right. Yeah. Martha, you're looking good.
Yeah. I know.
I
I
think you're
love it.
aerodynamic.
Yeah, just to show you, I can actually still play the viola without my curly hair.
You don't need hair to play the viola.
It took me years after I cut my hair, let me tell you. Your time will come,
You're next,
my friend.
Matt. You're next.
Your
Matt.
day will be here.
Greedy with the hair, man. What is that all about?
Man.
Yeah, well, Tracy and I we're going to do a performance piece when he comes to NJCU for the symposium in August. We're going to do a performance piece that involves music and hair. So you'll all have to. We'll talk about that after.
We'll do a little
Meanwhile-
medley from the show.
Matt Bell, what do you have for us?
Well, I had some questions for you, Tracy.
Oh no!
About theory.
This is turning into a roast. How did this turn into a roast? Usually, people have some kind of warning when they're
Wait,
walking
you know what
into a
though? I have to
situation.
say, you just did your most recent podcast was with Jean-Luc Ponty.
Yes.
I don't recall that you played this game with Jean-Luc.
I asked him because I always ask. I do ask. So you have the right to opt out of this, and he opted out. What can I tell you? So you know,
He can get away with it.
he gets away with it.
Yeah,
He gets away
he's
with
earned
it.
the right.
What's that?
He's earned the right to opt
Yes.
out.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But I
So
think
I-
the only one of
I was going to say that you know about theory, smart guy, and you know about strings.
oh,
What do
I
you know
see
about
where we're
string theory?
going.
I thought you were gonna do like the food stromboli for him.
I don't know anything about food. You're the food guy.
All right, never mind.
We're gonna make a whole Stromboli
We're gonna
thing.
do the whole thing. Okay,
All
whatever.
right, string
guy
theory. All right,
eats
we're going
fast
physics.
food.
We're going physics
Actually,
here.
we'll do a Stromboli day in August at the symposium.
There you go.
We'll have Stromboli for lunch one day.
That would be awesome.
All right.
And in
yes,
New Jersey,
I'm
they
gonna-
make really good Stromboli in New Jersey.
Yes. All right.
They don't even
there
know
we
what
go.
it is in Nashville.
It's bigger than a calzone. Go ahead,
Okay,
Matt.
so string theory. So we're getting into physics. That's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, we're gonna get a little nerdy. So
Get into some higher physics.
string theory suggests that inside subatomic particles,
Yeah.
there are strings that vibrate,
Mhm.
and they create quarks or photons or electrons, right?
Okay.
And strings, as you know, have to be connected to something in order to vibrate.
Right.
So what do scientists call the thing that they're connected to?
Shallow tuners.
So, well, I got choices for you.
Oh, okay. Pegs.
We got bones,
bones.
brains,
Wait a second.
tendons, or nodes.
Bones, brains, tendons, or nodes, as in like on your vocal cords?
Yeah.
I'm going nodes. Brains.
It's brains.
Wait a second. That's where the strings are tied to?
Yeah. Yeah, but it's BRANES. But,
Oh.
you know, works better as an audio joke. Yeah.
All
Okay,
right.
so
Okay.
we're-
All
we got a chance to go 500
I'll give you
here.
that.
A main concept of string theory is supersymmetry.
Super.
So it says that all particles fall into two groups. There's a force particle and a matter particle. And we got to know what those two are called. So one choice would be a boson and a violinston. That's one choice. Another would be a boson and a fermion. Another one would be a boson and a bow daughter.
Are you making this stuff up, man?
That one he made up.
Yeah. And then
Make it
there's
easy.
uh,
I appreciate you making it a little easier for me.
yeah. And then a plankson and a fermion.
Wow. I'm going to say it's one of the bosons because I remember hearing about the boson particle a few years ago. It was a big deal. So the boson without the daughter.
Yeah, the boson, the fermion. That's what they're called.
Okay, I'm going with that.
That's it. You got it.
See? There you go. See?
It's a smart
Ready-
guy.
Ready
String
for
theory.
higher learning.
1 out of 5.
1 out of 5.
Can we call that the
Thank you, Joe.
multi-style string
Thanks
theory?
for keeping score, Joe. I appreciate that.
Oakland A's, man.
I'm glad there aren't like I'm glad we don't have on-screen graphics here with the score.
You got it. You got one more.
1
Matt,
out of
or-
5. Okay.
That's all I got. That's all the
Okay.
questions.
Oh, that's it.
It took me 3 hours to come up with that.
You see how long this shit takes?
Before we kick Matt and Joe out, because we get together at ASTA and you know we're all in this evolutionary string world together, even that we come at it from different ways.
Yes.
And so Matt and Joe, if you can just share some your perspective on the evolution of strings and how we all sort of fit into this moment.
Oh, wow.
Joe.
Okay. Well, actually, we were hanging out last night with our good friends Nacho and Lourdes, who just graduated with their masters from the NJCU multi-styles program. And them being from Spain, they said what they observed here at ASTA is a collective effort from all of us, friends and colleagues, to push the string world forward and make multi-style philosophy and teaching part of the mainstream educational environment. And we're on this great mission together. And I think we've made a lot of progress. It's slow moving, but in 20 years that, or even or more, that there have been efforts by all these, people like Martha and Julie Lyon Lieberman and Mark Wood and Chris Howes, and I could go on and on. And everybody's kind of working toward this common goal, and they think it's a beautiful thing. And it would be great to see more of that in Europe and in Asian countries and South American countries in the string world. I'm very confident and optimistic, and especially because there's more and more programs in higher education opening up for string players who want to go beyond the classical realm.
Yes.
Like Berkeley, obviously, Belmont, Champaign-Urbana with Rudolph Hawken,
Yep.
NJCU multi-styles program, and hopefully there'll be even more, and hopefully it'll go more international.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just having taught at Mark Wood's camp for, this is going to be year 13 for me, a lot of kids who started out at age 12, 13, 14, 15 come in there and came back every year, are now working as professional musicians with their own careers. And there's a huge tidal swell of young players with amazing skill sets that previous generations did not have. So
yeah, I think the internet has changed that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I talked over you, man.
No, I'm done. That's all I had to say.
I was just throwing on top of that I think the internet has had a huge influence in that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
In many ways.
A lot more resources now, for sure.
Resources and communication. People see what other people are doing. It's such a difference when you see on internet, if you just follow, as we all do, follow like electric violin as a hashtag, you see everybody who's playing, and it's like people all over the world doing stuff. And you're like, I'm not alone. And just that was not around when we were kids.
Yeah, it's a domino effect.
It was, hang on, I'm still here. It took stuff like this.
Yeah.
In my life, I was like, what? Somebody's doing what? He's not waiting for somebody to say it's okay. Yeah. Right. There you go. Yeah. But I mean, I had that, had that record since I was 17 years old, and it changed my mind. But if he hadn't have done that, and if I hadn't been aware of that, I might not have had, there it is. Yeah. Oh, signed. Nice.
Amazing.
Nice.
Very cool.
But anyway, point is that the awareness of other people doing it is huge. That community. So.
Yeah, and it compounds on itself. You see somebody out there playing and kicking butt. They want to do it, and then someone will see you, and it just multiplies.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and Joe, I mean, we're going off base here, but I mean, you're the newest member of the band Kansas, and that's, I mean, if that doesn't say something for going outside your boundaries and exploring other styles, because if you hadn't studied classical and jazz and fusion and theory, string theory or cheese theory or string cheese theory or whatever. No, I'm just, but I mean, and I went to see you play the other day, and it's possible. Anybody studying these instruments can do that if you're feeling it. As Tracy said, you like the music, and then you can learn how to play it. And I think that's just the greatest thing, when we all start getting there and showing what's possible. And reaching your dreams, or even if you just want to jam alone in your room, which is how I started, with the lights off and the
music is perfect. Sorry, Joe, you were about to say something.
No, sorry. I think because I had Stratospheerius for all these years, it was my passion project. I kept writing and putting out music and touring and spending a lot of money, but feeling compelled to keep doing it and asking myself, why am I continuing to do this? Right. But if I didn't have that band and didn't have videos up online, they might not have found me and invited me to join their band. It was all everything happens for a reason, but ultimately I was just doing what I love and following my heart. And that's
and doing it and doing it consistently for, a significant time.
you didn't just try it out for a year and then go, oh, this isn't really working. It's that commitment.
25 years.
Yeah, right.
25 years. Yeah.
And even though, as we all know, you were always destined to be in Kansas, that was clear from the day you were born. But sometimes it just takes a while for you to reach your destiny. So,
Yeah, don't give up.
yep.
Yeah, and how Matt, you just got your degree in electric violin, master's degree. So
Yeah.
where'd you come from?
Yeah.
Well, the short story.
Yeah. No, we talked about the internet, and I was kind of figuring all this stuff out starting in the mid 90s and early 2000s before social media. I didn't know that Joe was out there and Tracy was out there and Martha was out there doing the things they were doing. I was just kind of, evolving in isolation in Beaumont, Texas. I was the only electric violinist there. And that's the advantage the kids have got now, is that they know about Mia and they know about Lindsay and they know about Mark Wood and they know about all these people doing all this stuff that, we didn't know about. You guys did because you were around other players, but I wasn't around other violinists.
Yeah. No, it's huge. It's huge.
And a lot of influence. I told you this the other day, Tracy. There's a lot of your influences seeping into manufacturers. We now carry, I think, 7 different manufacturers that make a 6-string violin.
Well, thank you.
And I got one more prototype headed my way I can't talk about, but there's more coming. So 6-string is very quickly becoming the standard, and it just works.
And I want to say, I was. I'm proud to say a very early adopter, the second person in the world playing 6-string violins. But a shout out to Mark Wood, who started that ball rolling a year or two before I ran into him. And I, found him because he had a 6-string violin. And I was like, dude, and immediately we started making some together and making me. So I've been playing sixes forever. And you've heard me say, 6-string is the instrument of the future. That's the violin of the future. Not,
7 strings, seven.
or 7. Right. At least 6.
Right.
At least 6. But I think 6 are going to be de rigueur. I mean, string players are going to need that in order to be able to play any pop music in an effective way. Just like guitar, to function like a guitar, you have to have the range of a guitar. That's just physics. That's string theory right there. You have to, if you can't play those bass notes, it's just, you don't play chords in the same way. It's like a ukulele compared to a guitar. Nothing against ukuleles, but guitar's got that extra octave, and that's important. And I do think 6s are the instrument of the future. So,
octave pedals don't cut it, in my opinion.
No.
It's not the same.
It's a different thing, because you gotta be able to get back and forth to your upper register, and play to. We can't strum all 6 strings like a guitar can, but we sure can arpeggiate and do very interesting stuff that basically functions like finger picking or just melodic, whatever, lead playing. So anyway, get me started. But I appreciate that. I appreciate the 6-string thing. And I got to tell you, it does my heart good every time I see somebody playing a 6-string violin or, ads for them. It wasn't that long ago. 10 years ago, you could barely find one. Mark Wood's instruments were probably the only 6s in the world. Now you can find acoustic 6 strings that sound amazing. Eric Aceto and other makers. And I don't know, man, how many companies make 6-string violins? There's a lot of them, aren't there?
Yeah, we're carrying 6 or 7 right now. So Glasser and Wood and Jordan, 3D Various. We've got an ETJ hanging here. We've got a Forte Vio hanging here. It's a lot. Yep. Yeah.
And maybe one day Ned Steinberger will enter the scene. Well, we'll see. We'll see.
With any luck.
Well, I'm still hanging on to my 5 strings.
We're trying to get Yamaha in the 6-string world too.
Oh man,
it could be. I've had a few 6 coming through my purview, so it may happen.
With Yamaha, or
not with Yamaha? No, not yet. no.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Glasser for sure. And
I tell you what, if anybody at Yamaha is listening, man, they could change. Yep, six, please. They could change the violin world in a more significant way than almost anybody else by making some six-string instruments affordably. That would be huge. I would advocate for that as long as they're a decent instrument. If they're anything like their five strings, that's gonna be a game changer.
yeah,
So I hope they do.
yeah. Well, here's my
Yep.
baby.
Yep.
Yeah.
um,
Who's
but
doing
the main, I mean, the other thing that okay, so we're talking about electric strings or more than four strings,
Multi-string.
and that it now allows you once you get into five strings, and you can start to play both violin and viola repertoire, and you can play classical repertoire
Mhm.
on a five string just like you can on a six string or
Yeah.
on a seven. And what's the most classical thing, Joe, you've played on your Viper?
Well, I was going to say, who is there's a new manufacturer for six and seven strings, right? That's going to take over. Super Sensitive was making seven string
Oh, the
sets.
strings themselves.
Yeah, the strings themselves, because it's harder to come by, right?
Yeah, super sensitive. Super sensitive went under during the pandemic and were bought by Daddario. And Daddario's not really shown a lot of interest in making those strings. There are a couple of companies that have some prototypes out for B flat strings, but none of them are ready to officially say that they're not on the market yet.
What about the F?
Yeah, Vision makes a really nice F string. I've been using Vision F string even when super sensitive was available. It's a smaller gauge string, just moves easier, and it's as you start, especially with a seven, if that F string is so big and the B flat string is so big that it really tightens up your bow angles. So the smaller the string I can get, the more space I have to move around.
Yeah, and it's easier, more responsive to the bow and stuff like that.
Right. But there are B flat strings coming. F strings are on the market. Vision makes those, and then there are B flat strings coming. But they'd get mad at me if I said publicly who's doing it, because it's not officially on the market yet, but they are coming. So hold on.
That's what I've heard too. So.
Well, I just realized we're coming to the end of this hour, but we have, let's see, let me check my notes here. This took such a different direction, which I love. We're all improvisers, and I find that the best thing that can happen is when something takes a left turn and you just go with it, and
Exactly.
and it's unscripted, and the collaborative energies just take it to a whole other level. So I'm so delighted, and we're just gonna do a plug, because Tracy is going to be here in Jersey City at New Jersey City University for a multi-style string symposium. There should be a link in the, I think Erica's doing that. I seem to not be able to get on Facebook at the moment. But August 7th through 9th, and we're going to be doing everything that Tracy does in his grooving. And why don't you explain a little bit more, because you do these in other places, except now you're going to be doing it in New Jersey in August.
Yes. So
and I also want to just give a little tease that all the participants, which are teachers, as well as we've opened it up to high school and college students now, they can participate. And the culmination, it's 3 days of working with Tracy and myself. I don't go away. I stick around. And it culminates in a concert that Tracy will do the first set solo, and then we'll have a combined concert with the participants. And it may or may not include some reggaeton.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, but so give us a little shout out about your workshops, and you've got a free online one coming up too, right?
Yes. Thanks, Martha. Yeah. Just briefly, I'll be digging into groove playing mostly. I mean, we'll be talking about improvisation and
other things, how to play the blues, and probably over a course of 3 days we'll cover a lot of territory. But one of the real things that I focus on is this thing I call Strum Bowing, which is really about grooving. And so we'll dig into that, and I'll kind of be working step by step through that system, that method, and how to develop the skills, ghosting, chopping, what I call a 3D chop, which is, sort of these grooves, and what I call percussive bowing, which is kind of in between the horizontal and the vertical. So yeah, we'll be doing all that kind of stuff. Maybe, I don't know if we'll have enough people together to put together a little string orchestra or quartets or ensembles or something. So
Absolutely. Yep.
I have some pieces for that we can do, arrangements for quartet, for string orchestra. So hopefully that will be part of it. And those are sort of like involve a lot of strum bowing in the pieces. So it kind of requires everybody to learn how to do that in order to play those pieces. So that's kind of the shape of what we'll be doing.
Well, I'm excited for that.
Yeah, me too.
And
It's gonna be
and
fun.
I'm going to try to tune into you. When is your next
Oh
online?
yeah. I think it's the 20th next. What day would that
We'll
be?
we'll put up some
Tuesday.
links.
I think it's next Tuesday. Yeah, every couple of weeks. And if you miss that one, just look for another one. Every couple of weeks, you can go to my website, which is tracysilverman.com or strumbowing.com, and there's a little pop up you can put your email in that will tell you when the next one will be. And you can sign up. They're free. And I've been doing this like every couple of weeks just because I'm trying to make this, it's a new approach to playing rhythm. It's super simple, based on the way guitar players strum, but it's new to a lot of folks. And in order to try to make it accessible to everybody, I've just been doing this for free every couple of weeks and saying, hey, just come on and check it out. If it's interesting, you can follow up on it. But I want everybody to get a chance to see some of the possibilities for string players, because I just think that's how you move the needle. It's like retail politics. You just got to get out there and show people how it's done, how I'm doing it, and how they could get involved in a more rhythmic way with their instrument. So
I think that's fabulous, and I can't wait to get you here in
yeah,
August to do hands-on. I'm looking forward to learning because you saw what I did. I haven't been able to share the screen, so I'll post that link later. But we took a stab
yes,
at doing the La Gozadera by Gente de Zona, and I promise we are going to do that in the symposium. Um,
good, good, good.
so uh, last year, Joe was one of the featured guests with his string quartet Sweet Plantain, and Joe's going to be off in another festival in France, so we'll miss him this summer. But Joe's on our faculty at NJCU, and so we look forward to, even when he's not on stage with Kansas, we're going to make sure that he's still doing his educational bidding.
Yes, we're gonna keep you.
And Matt, we'll see. We've gotten Matt here. Some of my students have done his music, so it's all a big family. And I think there's a lot of great energy. And I thank you, Tracy. Thank you for this time. Thank
Oh
you,
yeah,
Joe, for popping in, and Matt.
yeah, guys.
Um,
Woo! So good to see you.
this has been so much fun, and I'm going to put this on repeat, and I'll probably we'll add some more links so that people can sort of get a sense of what else we've been talking about. But this has been really cool. Thank you so much, and thanks for everybody watching and listening. And do feel free to share the links. And if you have any questions, I've been looking. We've had some comments, which has been great. No particular questions. Thanks, Nacho, for all your amazing comments there. Alexei, thanks for tuning in.
Alexa.
And Erica, thanks for being there. Mom, thank you for showing up. All right, so we'll talk soon, and big love to
Martha,
everybody.
Martha, thank
Onward
you.
with your string theories and your exploding strombolis and your
Martha, thank you so much for putting this together. I'm really looking forward to coming. And I have to say, you had me a little nervous. You posted something today saying that there are going to be some surprises. I was a little concerned that you might have found that my brother lives in Cranford. He's a dentist and an amateur saxophone player. I was like, there's only so much amateur saxophone I can take. So I'm very glad that these guys showed up. No offense to my brother if he's watching. But, you know,
we'll see you in a few weeks, you and Matt. I'll see you guys.
that's right. We're going to be at Mark Wood real soon. And, you know, we're all rowing in the same direction, as they say. So I think this would be a good improv thing. We should all row. Let's see if we can synchronize our rowing. Can we do this? No, you got to opposite me. Okay. Some things Zoom
It's
just
like
cannot be defeated.
Friends don't let friends, clap on 1 and 3.
There you go.
Awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much, and we'll see you soon. We'll end this conversation.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Martha.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
See ya.
All right, Martha, let's do this.
Let's do it, Tracy.
1, 2, 3, 4.